Paletta, very, very good afternoon to you, and a good afternoon to all of our viewers that are watching the special coverage of the State of the Nation 2019. This, of course, is the first State of the Nation address that the President is going to be delivering as the 6th Parliament begins. However, this is the third State of the Nation address that President Cyril Ramaphosa has delivered to the nation, and in fact the second this year. I know all of these numbers must be getting to you, but the reality is that it's been a very busy year on the political front. So this year seems to be a lot more toned down than it usually is. There's cost-cutting measures that have been put in place in every single area. However, I think the red carpet is still going to be as fabulous as it always is, and that's why we've got our two star reporters on the red carpet today. They're going to be bringing us all of the latest entrants and fashions, and of course we'll try and speak to as many of the politicians as we possibly can. They'll probably start arriving at about 4 o'clock, but to put us in perspective, to give us an idea of what more we can expect today, let's first cross over to Griselda Lewis. Now, Griselda is standing very close to where the National Assembly steps are, and then of course we'll cross to Asanda in a short while. She's standing right at the beginning of the carpet. So for now, Griselda, a very, very good afternoon to you.
Well, indeed, thank you very much, Leanne. As you said, live here on the steps of the National Assembly, where in just a couple of hours now, the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, will enter here and deliver his first State of the Nation address of the 6th Parliament. In fact, this is going to be his third now, taking into account that he had assumed office in February 2018. And this is a joint sitting of the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces. And basically the SONA kickstarts the program of Parliament. But this SONA takes place under very precarious circumstances. For example, if you look at the issues of unemployment as well as inequality in the country, you've got about 10 million South Africans who are unemployed. So one would really think that a lot of focus on this particular SONA will be put on issues relating to unemployment in South Africa, amongst some of the challenges that the country faces, and the issue of youth unemployment as well within that particular bracket. So it was by no surprise that the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, just yesterday had met with young people through the National Youth Development Agency to hear what some of their concerns were. So one of the other issues as well, of course, you'd know that this State of the Nation address would be highly influenced by the ANC's Lekgotla, which was held just a bit earlier on this month, as well as the manifesto of the ANC's election campaign. You'd recall with that particular ANC Lekgotla, some of the outcomes included helping about 100,000 young people to start up businesses. So chances are that the President will focus a lot on that pertaining to young people. The issue of SOEs as well, which has been a stickler for the government of the day. We know that President Cyril Ramaphosa met with the Eskom board, for example, earlier on this week here in Cape Town. And all we do know is that issues pertaining to reforms had been discussed. Nothing much was given in a press release pertaining to that. But the issue of the threat of state-owned enterprises like Eskom, for example, is some of the issues that the President will really focus on in this particular State of the Nation address. But the carpet has been set. We're waiting for all the fashionistas to come here and show us who they're wearing. We'll certainly talk to them. The band here as well, the South African Navy Band, is also just putting its final touches here to what they will be performing in just a couple of moments as well. This is the last of the rehearsals that they will do, but we're expecting at about 4 o'clock for people to start arriving here on the steps of Parliament. Let's go now to my colleague Asanda Mbeche.
Well, thank you, Griselda. The red carpet is indeed open. I'm standing right at the top end before the stairs of the National Assembly where you are. And behind me is the red carpet where the procession not only of the President, but also other judges, premiers will be coming up from this end. Right where that group of people is standing, that's the media box. All the journalists that are gathered here to see all the fashion from the old and the new faces that are coming to Parliament. So the red carpet is quite open, and we're now waiting for MPs and their guests who will be coming to Parliament. Now, we've been talking about a lot of things that we expect the President to address, as he delivers his State of the Nation address today, one of the people we're going to be talking to, earlier we'd been talking to political parties. One of the parties we had not spoken to yet is the Economic Freedom Fighters. I'm joined by its returning Chief Whip, Floyd Shivambu. As we begin to get into the State of the Nation address this evening, what are the EFF's key expectations, things that you would want the President to address as he delivers his speech this evening?
Now look, there are lots of outstanding issues from the Fifth Parliament, more specifically the finalization of the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution to permit for expropriation of land without compensation. You would know that the ad hoc committee in the Fifth Parliament did not conclude that work. So the President must speak much more firmly in terms of the ultimate expropriation of land without compensation. But also there was a private member's bill which was tabled by the Economic Freedom Fighters on removing private shareholders from the South African Reserve Bank. So there must be clarity in terms of what is being said, because the ANC has entered into some confusion in terms of how they've been articulating the policy position around nationalization of the Reserve Bank, but also the creation of a state bank. There's a private members bill which the EFF had put forward to say that we should create a state bank that will be regulated within the current regulatory framework in terms of what should happen. But there are obviously lots of other issues that must be dealt with. More importantly, the issue of economic growth, because the economy is currently in recession. There are no jobs. There's a crisis in terms of what otherwise should be a collective agenda of South Africa. So the issues must be dealt with in that particular session.
Another concern people have, especially with the State of the Nation address, is whether the EFF will disrupt the sitting or not. What's the EFF's position around this particular SONA?
Look, we have never disrupted any SONA as the EFF. We have always operated under the rules of the National Assembly. And if there are issues which we think are urgent that have to be raised.
Are there urgent issues for this particular sitting?
We'll raise that. We've got a caucus of the EFF now at 5:30 to determine if there are urgent issues that will require the attention of the President now. But our attitude is that the SONA must pick up on all the issues that could not be concluded by the Fifth Parliament, more specifically the land question, because the Sixth Parliament from the beginning should resolve the land question. It's long overdue.
Thank you, Floyd. Thank you so much for joining us. That's the Chief Whip of the Economic Freedom Fighters. We'll move you now to our colleagues in the studio that's been erected around Parliament. Leanne Manners, who's joined by Manelisi Dubase and Ndula Maslepu. Guys, it's back to you in the studio.
Asanda, thanks very much for keeping an eye on the red carpet for us. Of course, we'll be crossing to both Griselda and Asanda throughout the course of today, and we'll keep you updated with everybody that's walking up. And you can see it's still a little bit quiet, so people should be arriving probably in around about a half an hour from now. Then, of course, the main address takes place at 7 o'clock this evening, where our President Cyril Ramaphosa addresses the nation. As you heard Asanda saying, I'm not alone in studio, and it's really great to have with us our SABC journalists that cover Parliament frantically all year, so there probably isn't anyone better to be talking to at this stage than Lulama Matja. You'll know her well from radio, and it's so good to have her here with us. Lulama, what a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for sitting here with us today and chatting to us about the SONA. Good to have you.
Good to have you too, Leanne. It is such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad. And then, of course, Manelisi Dubase. He's the man who we always hear coming from Parliament, and finally we'll have him sitting and telling us a couple of the behind-the-scenes secrets and find out exactly how things are going to pan out this evening, hopefully. Manelisi, good to see you. Thank you again for chatting to us.
Thank you very much, Len. Welcome.
So let's, I suppose, begin the discussion with perhaps a question that maybe people are asking. You know, you and I take it for granted that everybody knows why we're having two State of the Nation addresses in 1 year. There was the one in February, and now we're doing it again in June. Why?
Absolutely, because you see, Leon, this was an election year. You know, normally you have to wrap up the Fifth Parliament, and it has to be done so through the State of the Nation address, where the President report back to the nation about the achievements of the Parliament that has been in session, which is the Fifth Parliament then. And then now we went to the election. We had a swearing in of a President, a swearing in of new members of Parliament, which is the Sixth Parliament, which has to be open officially, where the the president will basically, give us a way forward as to where to from here in terms of, as you know, that our economy is in a very, very bad shape, and we have so many things, the commissions of inquiry going on. The president will have to outline those kind of things. But you are right, many people will be asking this because of a simple reason. If you remember, since the dawn of our democracy, President Mandela only had one term.
Yes.
And you remember his goodbye message, don't call me, I will call you. And you'll see me having a placard, a new wife, married with lots of children. That, it was, I would say, a very normal handover. But since then, we have never had a president who has finished his term. Yeah. President Thabo Mbeki was recalled before his term was over. So you have President Kgalema Motlanthe coming in, which was a stopgap. Immediately after that, President Zuma came in. He never finished his term. It was President Zuma was supposed to be doing the State of the Nation address in February and doing his goodbyes like President Mandela did, same as President Mbeki in 2008. He was supposed to have make a State of the Nation address or wrap up the fourth parliament and hand over the baton to President Zuma. But we've never had that in the past few years. I hope we'll have that in this year. And that will maybe probably remove a sort of confusion that we have all these ceremonies.
Yeah.
But that's a fact of the matter.
And we'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a short while. But I just want to keep on talking on a couple of the things that have been going on behind the scenes. So we talk about the fact that this is the second one, the reason why we're having two State of the Nation addresses. But there's been so much that's been happening behind the scenes. The swearing-in ceremonies. We have a new cabinet. There are brand new parties coming in, new members of parliament. So this is going to be a very robust parliament, which we'll talk to now. But perhaps, Lulama, you can talk to us about the run-up to what we're about to see happen today.
Yes, and before today, there was a culmination of events that took over. For instance, the first sitting of both houses of Parliament after the election. It was the 22nd of May and the 23rd of May when the new members of Parliament, when there was a swearing in of the new members of Parliament by Chief Justice Mogoeng. Remember, because the fifth Parliament was finished and the new administration was coming in. So that sitting had to be presided over by Chief Justice Mogoeng, where even the new Speaker of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise, was elected. And then the following day, the 23rd, it was the NCOP, new members swearing in again, Chief Justice Mogoeng presiding over that ceremony. And then from Parliamentary end, we went to Pretoria, the Union Buildings, when the president, the new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was inaugurated on the 25th of May, which was Africa Day. Then, after that period, after the inauguration of the president, normally the president then would call this day. This day has been called by President Cyril Ramaphosa through the National Assembly Speaker, Thandi Modise, and the NCOP chairperson, Mr. Amos Masondo, so that he can now officially kicks off this sixth administration by addressing the nation, of course, on what his vision is for the country, how he wants to drive the economy. As Elias said, that we are in a very difficult economic situation. There's high unemployment, there's high levels of poverty, there's so many things that are many challenges that are facing the country. We're expecting to hear now what his message is going to be.
Well, that I think is what a lot of South Africans are hoping to hear, because everybody I speak to, whether it be your man on the street, opposition parties, even members within the party itself, are saying we need an open, honest, transparent SONA that's going to lay the foundation for us and tell us, look, this is where we're at. We know it's not good, but this is what we're going to do. Not plans. This is the action that we're going to put in place. How honest do you think the president is going to be in this particular address? Everyone's hoping for it, so it now remains to be seen.
Leon, I hope we can speak a different language after he has spoken. After this, I don't think we'll have so much surprises, either than what we are going to have is clarity on the whole number of issues that are affecting the nation. For instance, there's been committees that have been put together to look at ESCOM, for instance. One of the biggest risks that this economy and this country effectively faces is that ESCOM must work. So the president, all what he can do will be simply to tell us exactly, after he has already told us that the ESCOM is going to be unbundled into 3 entities. He has to tell us how is it going to happen, what are probably the time frames, because you know that the unions were vehemently opposed to this unbundling of ESCOM, because they thought of about job shedding, among other things. So the president, I think he must come clear on those kind of things. I mean, on issues of crime, really we have a high rate of
situation.
crime. I mean, I just heard this morning from our TV station and our radio station about people who are killed in Pretoria next to a park by unknown people. The police are still investigating. And added to that is these protests that have become very, very violent in nature. You know, every time when the people want schools, they ban roads, they close roads, they shut down the towns and all sorts of things. So I think the president, what we are going to hear is that he's going to come up very clear on those issues as to from here, because now this is his first official term. I mean, he was just finishing President Zuma's term. So he's going to, show us what, the Nguni language speakers would say, there was the roadmap actually from here onwards. I think that's where he's going to come clear, I mean, on issues like those. And many others, of course. But I don't think he will drop a bombshell. I mean, he has announced a number of issues. He has changed the NPA. He has done well there, and he has done well in terms of setting up these commissions. And I don't think he will come up and say, tomorrow we'll have 3 members of this house arrested. I don't think he will go as far as doing that. No. But obviously, we'll sort of get a clue exactly as to what is the way forward from here onwards.
All right, so just to remind you as well that we've got these visuals coming from the red carpet. These are live visuals that you're watching on your screen right now as people start getting ready for SONA 2019. And it certainly is an occasion where everybody comes out there in their full regalia, and this is the Mbongi, I think, that is going to be here today. Lulama, do you want to have a look there and see? I mean, I know that the big thing was whether or not there was going to be an Mbongi. It was decided there is going to be one.
Yes.
Do you think that from the Khoisan, I think this is...
Yes, from the Khoisan community, that should be him. It was then after an outcry from the public, because it has been a tradition that on a ceremony like this, there is Mbongi. But this time around, Parliament felt that because of cost-cutting measures, they will do away with Mbongi. But then South Africans didn't take kindly to that. They wanted Mbongi to be part of the ceremony, because some were saying that's the only traditional link to the ceremony.
And it's true.
That is Mbongi.
I mean, to take this away, and you talk about cost cutting, and people were saying, I'll do it for free. Anybody will do this for free. And beside that, we'll do like this sort of a donation or a fundraising campaign to have this. But I don't think the government could ignore this, and I'm so glad it's taking place. So here was the final decision taken. I know this morning we were speaking to Madam Speaker Thandi Modise, and she said to us, no, it's been decided, Mbongi is going to be happening, and there you go.
There you go. Yes. And talking about donations, and we've seen how South Africans are when it comes to donation. Look at, for instance, one petrol attendant who helped a lady who was putting petrol in a filling station, and then she realized that she has no money, she has forgotten her wallet. Look, for instance, the other woman on Twitter that you interviewed recently on Morning Live.
Yes,
where South Africans would be able to donate because they feel that we can't do away with this. So we know that South Africans, if ever Parliament was not able to afford money for that Mbongi, definitely South Africans would have donated money for Imbongi to be
Indeed.
part of the ceremony.
Indeed. All right. Let's take a break here on this special edition of the State of the Nation broadcast, and we'll continue to bring you all live coverage from here. But for now, let's go back to the Johannesburg studio, and Peter and Palesa are there.